Hi, 680 CJOB's Richard Kluche. Mayor Brian Bowman is here, my colleague Kathy Kennedy, and welcome to our very first Periscope on Twitter of Breakfast with Bowman. Mayor, we're about to go on the air. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Morning, everyone.
Kathy is, you're not adverse to sunshine.
Well, no, just when it hits you right in the eye, so I put my little shade up. So.
What's going on right now is we have a couple more commercials, and then we're live with the mayor for 5 minutes on 680 CJOB. And we've got a series of questions. So we're just coming out of the break now, and we're going to get at it. So again, thank you so very much for joining us. My colleague 680 CJOB's Keith McCullough is manning the broadcast right now. Good Thursday morning, Richard and Kathy with you. It's 11 degrees. We're headed to 20 today in the sunshine at 7:45.
It is time for Breakfast with Bowman, and it's brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort, where service sets us apart, southbeachcasino.ca. All right, Mr. Mayor, we're going to get to some hard questions in just a moment, but I need to ask you, because we're talking about it on Facebook this morning, if we could put any iconic Canadian on our money, who would you choose?
Off the top of my head, I'd say Wayne Gretzky, Terry Fox. I know we were chatting during the break. There's a lot of good people that you could choose from.
Absolutely.
It's a great question. I love it.
Another great question, which you were seeking to answer, Portage and Maine and opening it up. What's the latest?
Well, I mean, we voted yesterday. Overwhelming majority of council voted to have the public service talk to local stakeholders, as well as take a look at traffic studies, pedestrian safety, that sort of thing. Downtown's changing. This was a campaign commitment, and I'm pleased that council agreed that we should at least look into this. The one thing that we heard from yesterday was the Downtown Winnipeg Biz came forward and said downtown business owners overwhelmingly support the idea of opening it. So we're not going to be removing the barriers tomorrow. Pedestrian safety, traffic flows have to be managed properly for this to work. And I think what we need to do is obviously talk to the local business owners right around the intersection, as well as hear from downtown like we did yesterday.
That's going to be not a month. This is going to be years in the making.
Well, you know what? It's going to take time, and we want to make sure that we're having thoughtful discussions. Look, I recognize it's a polarizing issue, and we want to make sure that we're having thoughtful discussions about it.
Mayor Brian Bowman with us on 680 CJOB. Also, we are streaming this live on Periscope. An ethics commissioner. What is that? What does that person do at City Hall?
Well, that's what we're gonna hear from the public service on how we can actually affect that. The previous council voted to kind of move in that direction, but yet we don't have an ethics commissioner.
Is there a scenario where you can explain simply what an ethics commissioner would do? Let's say you're doing something, you've got to consult the ethics commissioner. Why?
Well, I mean, typically ethics commissioners are used to proactively seek counsel on issues where there may be perceived or real conflicts of interest, to say, to get that advice. So that's actually the preferred option. Worst case scenario, when something hits the fan, you have an ethics commissioner to assist with the enforcement of codes of conduct and those sorts of things.
For instance, a city councillor has a brother-in-law who owns a construction company that is tendering contracts with the city of Winnipeg. You bring in an ethics commissioner to talk about those types of issues, whether or not something is done fairly, that person gets an advantage. It's those types of scenarios.
That's a pretty specific scenario. This is theoretical.
Could be.
Could be. It would be any issues affecting ethics, and what we need to hear from the public service, we need to hear from our legal counsel, we need to hear from other parties at City Hall, the auditor, for instance. How could we do this? And I'm committed to getting this done. I was very pleased with it was a unanimous decision yesterday to proceed. As you know, we've had discussions with the province, and we haven't yet been able to get the charter changes to have what would likely be a more enforceable, would be my preferred option, to have it just enshrined in the charter. But we're going to continue those discussions with our provincial partners. In the meantime, there's things that we can and we will do.
Mr. Mayor, let's move on to some infrastructure talk and talk about Winnipeg's police headquarters, the new and the old. Can you update us on what is happening there?
You know what? I can't, other than to say that we want to be moving in as soon as possible. We want to see the police get the new facility. Obviously, these are previous council decisions to purchase the new police headquarters. But we want to see our men and women of the Winnipeg Police Service having access to the new building as soon as possible.
How frustrating is it for you as a mayor to walk in and to have to deal with this mess and the cleanup that is now ensuing?
Well, there's a number of issues that this new council and I inherited that we're doing our best to manage on behalf of Winnipeggers. And the guiding work ethic at City Hall for me, and I know my council colleagues, is work hard and be honest with Winnipeggers, and that's what we're trying to do.
Are you taking the steps to deal with the old building yet and that parquet that's sitting idle?
Yeah. That's going to be a very difficult decision because you're right. There's the parkade is sitting there now. The current public safety building. There's a transition plan in terms of some of the renovations that's going to be happening at City Hall. That will involve the councillors and I moving into the public safety building while renos are happening. But the big question we haven't answered yet, and we're working with the public service, is what are the options for that building, once it's vacated. And it's a very important asset in terms of the space that it occupies in the heart of our downtown, the Exchange. We want to make sure that we get it right, but we haven't made any decisions on it yet.
Mayor Brian Bowman joining us live here on 680 CJOB and via Periscope on Twitter. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Morning.
680 CJOB.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Nice to break new ground with Periscope this morning.
Lives at CJOB.com.
Have a good morning, guys.